This movie is about a pretty complicated family. Vic and Melinda live happily together with their little daughter, Trixie. However, things start to get complicated when Melinda goes to a friend's party with Vic and brings a babysitter along to take care of Trixie. Vic begins to suspect that there's something going on between Melinda and Joel. Despite Vic staying silent and trying to keep their relationship strong, he can't help but feel jealous as he sees Melinda getting closer to Joel. After that, Melinda introduces Joel to Vic and leaves them alone together. While talking to Joel about Martin, Melinda's ex-boyfriend, Vic reveals that he was the one who killed Martin because he was getting close to Melinda. Upon hearing this, Joel becomes extremely frightened and quickly leaves the party. Melinda, frustrated by Joel's departure, denies having any connection to Joel's decision to leave. However, Vic is a quiet man who deeply loves Melinda. After returning home, Vic hands money to the babysitter who is about to leave. However, he suddenly catches sight of Melinda making coffee in inappropriate attire. Vic gets angry with her and asks her to go back and not do such things in front of the babysitter. Despite being upset, Melinda goes to her room, and when Vic follows, she asks him to choose someone smarter than Joel. The woman questions her husband if he loves her because of her intelligence, to which Vic responds that it is one of the reasons, but Melinda says she doesn't feel that way. After the incident, Vic retreats to the basement and tenderly cares for his pet snails. Besides his devotion to the snails, Vic is also a responsible figure at home, attending to the family's needs by preparing breakfast and taking his daughter to school. On the other hand, Melinda doesn't do much. After dropping off their child at school, Vic meets with his friends and unintentionally discusses the murder committed by Vic against Martin. Vic simply laughs it off, as he was sharing a joke with Joel at that time. However, when his friends suggest that Vic should control Melinda for her wrongdoing and her display of involvement with others, Vic remains silent, seemingly hesitant to address the matter with his wife. After arriving home, Vic's mischievous act that made Martin play a prank on Melinda was revealed. This made Melinda angry because Martin is her ex-boyfriend. Melinda suggests that Vic apologize to Joel, whom he had threatened with Martin's prank. Apparently, without her husband's knowledge, Melinda had invited Joel to have dinner together. In the evening, Joel arrived and was welcomed by Vic. Joel seemed nervous and asked about Melinda, to which Vic promptly invited Joel inside the house. Once inside, Vic informed Joel that they would be having a seafood dinner. Joel felt puzzled because in reality, Melinda knew about his seafood allergy, but hadn't informed Vic. After dinner, Melinda instructed Vic to take their daughter to bed and tell her a bedtime story. Once finished, their daughter asked why her mother seemed different in front of other people. Vic tried to explain that adults have many complicated sides. However, when their daughter expressed her dislike for Joel, Vic quickly directed her to go to sleep. Frustrated, Vic went to the kitchen and intentionally slammed a plate into the sink. Melinda noticed his presence, and Vic silently endured his pain. Then Melinda poured a glass of wine and asked Vic to give it to Joel. Finally, Melinda decided to give them some alone time. As Joel hoped for an apology from Vic for his prank, Vic firmly explained that it wasn't a joke. Vic then escorted Joel out, while reminding him that the Uber he had ordered was waiting outside. One day, the family attended a neighbor's party and encountered a writer named Don Wilson. At the event, they also crossed paths with Jonas and Grant, who were discussing Vic's success in developing Chip. However, their conversation was interrupted by Martin McRae's prank that made Melinda furious. Later on, Vic was seen dancing with Don's wife, Kelly Wilson. Melinda witnessed this and felt jealous seeing Vic dancing with another woman. During the journey home, Melinda remained jealous and asked questions about Vic's interest in Kelly. Vic honestly admitted that he was attracted to Kelly. Melinda immediately took action by grabbing Vic's pants and satisfying him in the car with her mouth. Melinda did this to make Vic realize that no one can please a man like her. The next day, Vic received a phone call informing him that Melinda had sent money to someone for piano lessons. Vic started looking for a person named Charles and managed to find him. He decided to attend one of the piano events involving Charles. However, when Vic arrived at the venue, he was surprised to see Melinda there as well. Vic decided to leave before Melinda could notice him. After Vic returned home, he learned from the news that Melinda's friend, Martin, had been found dead. Vic immediately informed Melinda about the discovery, and Melinda was shocked and started crying. The next day, Vic saw Charles carrying a bouquet of roses, but when he returned home, he was surprised to find the same bouquet of roses there. Vic felt angry and threw it into the trash. Then Vic went to take care of his pet snail and eventually went to sleep. One day when Vic woke up, he couldn't find Melinda at home. When Melinda finally returned, Vic asked why she was late and how she spent the money. However, Melinda seemed to give unsatisfactory answers and instead provoked Vic. In the next scene, they threw a party at home and invited their close friends. However, Vic was once again startled when Charles appeared at the party without his knowledge. Vic felt angry because Melinda had invited Charles without prior notice. When Vic saw Melinda hugging Charles, his frustration reached its peak. Melinda attempted to introduce Charles to Vic, but Vic chose to leave them behind and walk away. After that, Vic continued to observe Melinda closely, but eventually lost track of her. However, a few moments later, Vic coincidentally saw Melinda and Charles enter a room with a closed door. Vic decided to monitor them and see what was happening. When Vic saw Melinda and Charles come out of the room and go swimming in the pool, he felt angry, especially as rain began to fall. As everyone else decided to go inside the house, except for Vic and Charles, who remained in the pool. After a while, Vic finally entered the house and was shocked when people discovered Charles's body in the pool. Horror filled the atmosphere, and Melinda began screaming loudly, startled and frightened by the gruesome sight. When the police arrived, Melinda accused Vic of being Charles's killer. But Vic remained calm and denied the accusations. Vic's friends provided testimonies to the police that Vic was inside the house when the incident occurred. Eventually, Vic was cleared of the charges as there was no evidence linking him to the incident. After the incident, Vic tried to talk to Melinda and asked if she wanted to divorce him. However, Melinda refused. Even though Vic was a killer, he killed that person because of himself. While Vic was cycling and thinking about the crimes he might have committed, he saw a suspicious-looking car watching him along the way. A few days later, Vic was walking down the street and spotted the same car that had been watching him before. Suspicion crossed his mind. When Vic entered the restaurant, he was surprised to see Melinda sitting at a table with an unfamiliar man. The man claimed to be a psychiatrist. Vic grew suspicious of his presence and began questioning him about the clinic where he worked. However, the man replied that he had just arrived in town and did not have a clinic yet. Even when Vic asked the man to show his work identification card as proof, the man refused. Vic felt increasingly unsure about the situation and decided to leave them both in the restaurant and walk away. One day when Vic returned home, he saw Melinda leaving with a man who wasn't him. Vic felt confused and shocked by what he witnessed. He entered the house and focused on taking care of their daughter for the night. However, later on, Vic accidentally overheard Melinda talking on the phone with her new boyfriend. He heard their plan to go to Brazil together. Hearing this made Vic feel angry, humiliated, and hurt. The next day, Melinda's new boyfriend, Tony, arrived at their home during dinner time. Despite being consumed by anger, Vic made an effort to control his emotions. After the meal, Melinda left with her boyfriend, while Vic stayed behind to wash the dishes. A few days later, Vic bumped into Tony. He offered him a ride and Tony agreed, but when they entered the forest, Tony got scared and anxious as Vic started saying weird things. Right then, Vic brutally hit Tony until he was lifeless. After that, Vic tied the body with stones and threw it into the river to get rid of any evidence. A few days after Tony went missing, Vic and Melinda's relationship got better. They decided to go on a trip to the forest where Tony disappeared. But when they arrived at the forest, Vic saw Tony's dead body in the river. He immediately asked Melinda to go back home so she wouldn't see the gruesome find. Later that evening at home, Melinda started to value Vic's presence. She invited her husband to sleep together, and it was there that Melinda confessed her love for Vic, something she had never said to any other man. After a passionate night, Vic went back to the gorge to dispose of Tony's body. But unlucky for him, Don saw what he did and immediately went to inform the police. At the same time, Melinda, who went searching for Vic at the snail farm, managed to find Tony's wallet. Melinda quickly realized that Tony had been killed by Vic. Meanwhile, Vic, who was chasing Don on a bike, caught up with him using a shortcut. But unfortunately for him, Vic got into an accident and fell in front of Don's car. Don, in a panic, quickly turned his steering wheel, causing him to fall off the cliff into the river. Feeling that Don couldn't have survived, Vic quickly returned home and was shocked to see Melinda staring at him with surprise. Melinda then revealed that she had encountered Tony, indicating that Melinda was hiding her husband's wrongdoing. As the movie ended, Melinda made a surprising decision and chose to destroy Tony's passport instead of reporting it to the police.